Welcome back in, everybody. It is day 13 of our 25 Drams of Christmas. This is the Bourbinsane Whiskey Advent Calendar. If you haven't been watching the series, we're about halfway through now. Day 13, we're doing 25 days. And we're on to another Buffalo Trace product today. And with day number 13, we are going to be looking at Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Now, this is regular Buffalo Trace. So, Buffalo Trace made by Buffalo Trace. This is their flagship product. Let me start pouring this while we talk about it. This comes in Mash Bill 1. So Buffalo Trace is Mash Bill 1, which is actually a low rye mash bill. So they've got two mash bills. Mash Bill 1, which is lower rye. Mash Bill 2, which is higher rye. Higher rye mash bills are things like Blanton's, Elmer T. Lee, Hancock's Reserve, Rock Hill Farms. Whereas Mash Bill 1, the lower rye mash bill, are things like your Buffalo Trace, E.H. Taylor, Eagle Rare, things like that. So Buffalo Trace has a lot of different products, but this is one of their best, and it comes in at a great price too. So on average, these Buffalo Trace bottles are roughly 8 years, which is great. I mean, a $30 bottle that's 8-year-old whiskey. They're not age stated, but on average, with the blending of the barrels, that's what it comes out to be, is around 8 years. Can't really beat that. You know, you really can't. So let's go into color here first. This is a nice hefty pour, I'm realizing. Holy cow. This is a medium color. Medium caramel color. Not too dark, not too light. As far as legs go, there's almost no legs on the glass. This is 90 proof, and as you can see, I got a whole bunch of Buffalo Traces behind here. These are all store picks. The bottle I'm using today is the regular Buffalo Trace you will find on the shelf. So I wanted to be objective and talk about something you guys could all try, you know, versus having to get a store pick, because I'm a store pick guy. I love my Buffalo Trace store picks. I mean, I got a whole bunch of them, and there's more over there. So, but we're doing regular Buffalo Trace. Let's go into the nose. So as I describe with Buffalo Trace all the time, it is sweet, sweet oak. Sweet oak and cherry, you know, the sweet cherry oak. I'm picturing, when I say cherry, I'm thinking more of like a dark cherry, almost like a brandied cherry, if you will. Cherry cola, like a cherry soda. That's that cherry note. You know, it's not like a disgusting fake cherry Maker's Mark flavor, if I can say that. Because that is not the type of cherry I like. Or like cherry licorice. I'm not a big fan of cherry licorice usually. But this is more of a dark, deep, rich Buffalo Trace cherry. Excellent balance of the baking spices in this bottle though. I mean, the baking spices like clove, nutmeg come through. Some cinnamon. Let's give this a sip. Cheers, everyone. Happy day 13. So, very solid on the palate. A nice sweetness. It's almost like candy. You know, you take a sip. A lot of these Buffalo Trace products, it's just candy on the palate. I mean, brown sugar, the caramel, the vanilla, a nice, actually, kind of a whipped vanilla is kind of what it tastes like to me. I'm thinking more like vanilla pudding, maybe, or vanilla whipped cream type thing. More oak on the second sip there. The 8 years starts to show through. It does. On the back of the palate for me, it's 90 proof again, so I'm not getting a huge finish. Almost no Kentucky hug. I'm used to drinking higher proof stuff though, as probably a lot of us are that are watching this. But if you're new to bourbon, you're probably going to get a great Kentucky hug, but the finish is a little bit lacking for me, for someone who's drank several different whiskeys in my lifetime. So just my opinion, but let's go for one more sip here. It's got a great balance of the baking spices, the oak, and even a little bit of rye kick. The cinnamon I was describing a little bit on the nose is actually coming through on the palate for me. So it's funny with Buffalo Trace picks specifically, because I have a lot of experience with Buffalo Trace store picks. Each pick I've had, it seems to have one of the Buffalo Trace characteristics amplified. So I've got a bottle that's extremely cherried, like a lot of cherry comes through on that bottle. I've got another bottle that's actually pretty oak forward. I have a store pick I got recently actually that I actually described a lot more rye. So a lot more rye characteristics. It almost tasted like Buffalo Trace's Mash Bill 2, where it had more of a rye kick, more of those rye notes came through. So, you know, each one of these Buffalo Trace picks specifically are different. The regular Buffalo Trace product gets pretty consistent across the board. That's what they go for, you know, small batch consistency. And they pretty much nail it every time. $25 to $30 for this bottle, pretty much across the country, honestly. And for that value, for a fifth, super easy to drink, 8 years, you can't go wrong with it. You cannot go wrong with it. I hope you've tried Buffalo Trace. If you haven't already, do yourself a favor, pick up a bottle. One of the bottles I always recommend to someone who's starting to get into whiskey and bourbon. So go get a bottle, you will not be disappointed. Thank you all so much for joining me for day 13 of our Whiskey Advent Calendar. Now, tomorrow, we are going off the beaten path a little bit. We're going to be reviewing a scotch. And this is a scotch as a bourbon drinker that was recommended to me, one of the first ones I've had recommended to me. And it is extremely friendly for a bourbon drinker. And I would probably recommend it as a converter scotch from a bourbon drinker to a scotch drinker. So I think it's going to be a good one. Make sure you're here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think is going to be that bottle? What would be the scotch that you would recommend to a bourbon drinker who is starting to transition into scotch? Let me know what that would be. I appreciate y'all watching this episode today. Merry Christmas, everyone, right around the corner. Stay insane.